And it's even more important criteria rather than salary or whatever.
Hey, Marion.
Hey.
It's nice to have you today. So we wanted to talk about the way to understand and assess your next PM role. And you're telling me that for you, culture inside a company is probably the first thing you should look at. What can you tell us about?
Yeah, the culture and your next manager. Person who's a hiring manager who has a team within a company fits that culture. So this is a main point that most of the talents I work with, and I help them find a new role. I usually list all of their criteria. It can be anything, it can be really day to day. I want to be in a startup mood because I don't fit with the corporate codes or whatever,
Yeah.
or it should be close to that subway station because I don't want to be too far anyway. But most of the time I'm like, why the culture wouldn't be the first criteria, especially for those who want impact startups.
Right.
This is what most of the product people are looking for right now. Is I have some experience in that role. How can I go further in the impact I could have on society, on being even more useful and doing concrete stuff? When I ask them, the 5 whys, like why? For people, it's really different, how you can have an impact and what's important for you. We always come back to the culture. And it's even more important criteria rather than salary or whatever. For some of them who truly want an impact role, it's really difficult to find truly impact startups. And sometimes I'm like, why don't you give your time, for any kind of volunteer activity, and keep your PM role with a good salary, but in a culture that truly matches yours, And some are like, yeah, you're right. And for those who want to decrease or are okay to decrease their salary, they join different startups, but it's different.
When you're saying with impact, I assume you're also thinking about like ecology, social purpose companies and things like that. So you're saying that there's a big trend of product managers looking for this type of role. Really interesting.
The impact definition is truly different from one person to another, and it's truly amazing to see the difference. For instance, a scale-up like Brigade, I don't know if you know that marketplace. Some people think they are doing an amazing social work because they help people within the restoration industry, which is really, really difficult to find staff. And they are matching them with people who truly want to work with, the right schedule. And they launched a new product during the COVID crisis in the health hospitality industry. So most of the people are like, wow, it's truly great what they did, and they did a pivot, and they are close to the health industry, blah blah blah. And for some other people, they are like, no, they are Ubering. They're like
disrupting the industry, and actually it's bad, right? Yeah.
I think it's truly important as a PM to come back to your own drivers. What is your source of motivation? What are you willing to accept or not? Not only on your manager, but on the way decisions are taken. For instance, within the startups or the industry that you are applying for. Do they respect you when you when you apply for a job? Do they respect their clients, their users?
So as you're saying, like you need to take a step aside and kind of define your own drivers before you even starting to assess anything. Otherwise, you don't know even what to assess against. And I like that you highlight also the fact that you need to choose your leader, and that your leader will be, the first person who will embody this culture for you.
Yes.
And that's something really, really interesting. Like choose your leader, not only your role, not only your company, but choose your leader and know your drivers before you try to assess something. and the link you do with the culture is really interesting. So how could you advise someone to assess, to feel what is really the culture of a company? Do you have any ideas on what questions to ask, maybe how to approach that?
If you want, we can start with the product culture, because this is something that we really want to assess as product people overall. And it's really difficult because it embodies so many different things, the product culture. But I can give you a few items to look at when you're applying for a company or when you plan to work for a company. For me, a true great product culture links back to autonomy. Is how much do you give ownership to your teams on the problems you want to solve? You do it not only on the product and the tech team, but do you do it for teams? Back when I was working for Privatiser, when we scaled from 30 to 130% in 1 year, we did OKRs for the whole team. And so even the salespeople, even the customer success people, they were used to provide autonomy, and you're like, okay, you're going to be the objective owner, or you're going to be the key result owner. So, that could be something, how the OKRs or whatever, any other methodology is applied. That could be one thing to look at. The second thing is not being afraid to fail, especially in startups, but mostly in product. I think it's really important because this is what we are here for. We're here to have hypothesis, on some subjects and try to find solutions, validate any kind of issues that the clients or the users or there is on the market. And if you don't, as a company, glorify the fact that, okay, we've spent 2, 3, 4 weeks on this issue, and we found out that it's not even an issue, it's fine, because you've learned, and because you haven't launched any tech development, and if it's only in the discovery phase, then it's fine, And I think it's important, the test and learn.
You're supposed to innovate, and it's hard to innovate without at least a bit of iteration and failure. And
if the people who do some kind of mistakes or fail on any other project is like a shame in the company, or if you're like, who did that? Come on, you don't care who did that. That's something I would take a look.
It's sometimes difficult for product managers to know, how can they ask about this? Would you say that, asking during the interview phase, for example, how do you usually manage success and failures? And maybe can you tell me about the last time a product launch failed? What happened? Tell me more about it. Some questions like that.
You need to list all of those questions, and you need to find the right timing to ask your own question. That's the most difficult part when you apply for a job. You just need to de-risk, try to eliminate risks that this company is not a good fit for you, or to maximize the success that this company is a good fit for you. If you have a doubt, then you should ask questions about it. If you don't have time during the process and you're up until the end and you have an offer on the table, if you still have some questions, then you should ask for one more interview to be able to ask those questions. I would even recommend before, not until the last step, but this is great to open discussions also, and not just have, a typical manager, hiring manager and applicants, for a role. The questions that you ask as a talent and as an applicant truly have an impact on how the managers and the company will perceive you. And the more smart questions you have...
That's a smart guy or a smart girl.
That happens all the time.
Ask the questions, try to do it as early as possible, but even if you have an offer on the table and you still have questions, then go and ask them.
I have so many more on the product culture, but we'll stop with 4. The no silo approach is to be able to, even if you don't have, impact team, with a leader on the product and the design on the tech, or, a 3/4 as we call it in French, startups. Not everyone is organized like this, and it's fine. But for some projects, even companies with a lower product culture, you can see that for strategic or innovative projects, they start with this approach. This is how most of the companies who are more traditional create new ways to collaborate. This is how they approach it. Or is it like back end, front end, design, blah blah? If it's a feature factory and everyone is not collaborative, then not only on the product side, but for me it's more like an overall culture aspect.
For example, can you tell me about a project that involves different teams that happened recently? How did it go?
You can also ask, what if tomorrow I tell you that I want to invite a software engineer to a user interview? What would you say? Would you be okay? Would it be complicated? What if I want to involve someone from the business early in the project? How difficult would it be to find, I don't know, 2, 3, 4 hours per week? You want to go to the fourth? I think you'll like that one.
Let me hear it then.
How often does a company has feedbacks from user and from clients with concrete examples, like how often do you talk to users or to clients, and how do you manage this feedback?
So how often do you talk to clients, and how do you kind of translate their feedback into the product? Can you tell me the latest functionality that was developed through user feedback or through internal feedback?
How do you process it and how do you collect it is important as well. Because
Absolutely.
some people say, yeah, we talk to clients every week, and you just dig in, you do a 15-minute phone call, after a great review.
That's really, really helpful. The way companies treat feedback overall, it's definitely a big part of how they build a culture, not only a product, but a culture to serve it as well.
I can see that in the recruitment processes as well, where some of my clients, they don't care about the feedback I give them on the process, and some of them are like, whoa, thank you, or they even ask me, what do you think we should improve? Did the candidates like it? What do you think we should change next time we do a hire together? You can apply it to any use case. Most of the talent acquisition managers who have a great product culture, they ask me those kind of questions.
Yeah, that makes sense. A good way to assess that is to have a great agent that has a good communication with clients, and that knows and that can also give more context about this. So
honestly,
that's a great
it really
point,
helps
actually.
Because they speak without barriers, on both sides. So my clients are and my talents, and I can help, with the communication.
You're a great source of truth for this kind of
good way to say it. Yeah.
Great, awesome. Thank you, Marion.
It was a pleasure. Thank you for your time.